who's the outreach coordinator with Kids Win Missouri, Unlocking Every Child's Potential in Missouri. We'll end with questions and next steps. And this is part of a whole week of celebrating the campaign for grade level reading throughout the country. So we will have some highlights of what to expect tomorrow happening in Missouri. With that, I would like to introduce our first speaker, and I'm going to stop sharing so that Yolie can add her slides. Our first speaker, Yolie Flores, is the National Campaign Director for Parent Nation. She joined the TMW Center in 2021. The TMW Center for Early Learning and Public Health is an interdisciplinary research institution at the University of Chicago that advances a novel, and this is what I love, a novel public health approach to prevent early cognitive disparities and achieve impact at scale. As the National Campaign Director of Building a Parent Nation, Yolie leads strategic efforts to mobilize parents, caregivers, and allies in fighting for a society that better supports parents. Previously, and many of us on this call know Yolie as a Chief Learning Officer at the Campaign for Grade Level Reading, her previous job. After 3 decades working on behalf of children and families in Los Angeles, she served on the Los Angeles Board of Education. She was the CEO of the LA County Children's Planning Council and Director of Child Care Policy and Planning for the City of Los Angeles. Yolie's 30-year career advancing her well-being of children and families has earned her the distinction of twice being named Social Worker of the Year. In 2017, Yolie was a candidate for Congress in the 34th Congressional District. We are so excited to have you here, Yolie. Yolie will be presenting about this. She has so much on her plate that she will not be able to be with us during the entire webinar. So if you have questions for her, we will be, I will make sure that those questions are answered and provided for you later. So welcome, Yolie.
Thank you, Lisa, and good morning, everyone. I'm really, really thrilled, happy, honored to be with you. Amazing leaders from across Missouri, and particularly St. Louis and Kansas City, but all of you from the great state of Missouri. I'm so thrilled that you would join us today. And I do, unfortunately, because it is GLR week, there are a lot of events going on. I'll have to jump off right after my presentation. But as Lisa said, I will debrief with her and I will answer every question that comes in that she might not be able to, or Joe might not be able to. So let's get started. I do have some slides. I'm going to put them up because I want to walk you through the work that we've just launched, Parent Nation. And let me just get my slides here ready. So I'll first give you a little bit of context about Parent Nation, where that term comes from, what it means, and then where we are as a partner with all of you across the country, lending our efforts to yours to advance this idea that for children to succeed, their parents need to succeed. And for that, we need to create a society that sets parents up to succeed. So let me walk you through a little bit of the context. So first of all, let me introduce you to Dr. Dana Susskind. Dana is the author of her new book, which just came out on April 26th. If you haven't read it, I would absolutely recommend it to you, have you do a book club around it. It's a powerful, powerful call to action for a society to better support parents. Dana, as some of you might know, is a cochlear implant surgeon, an ENT doctor at the University of Chicago. She's a professor. She's all of these things. She's an author, but more important, Dana is one of the leading voices and advocates in this country around child well-being, starting in the very earliest years. And that's really why Dana wrote Parent Nation. She had written a first book called 30 Million Words. And her aspiration with that book was to really put front and center to policymakers, to leaders in this country, the importance of language and interaction, especially in those early years during the time that such rapid brain development is happening, which is what lays the foundation for all learning and for success in life for children. She jokes that that book didn't do what she had hoped it would do, and that instead it became a baby shower gift. Not a bad baby shower gift, by the way. But during the time of COVID, she recognized just how much more we needed to amplify this message around parents needing support. We saw what was happening through the COVID experience, where so much was on parents' shoulders. And we saw the impact and the consequences on children, young children in particular. And at that point, she was really ready to be, I think, a bit more clear and forceful on this call to action around a society needing to create a society that better supports parents. So all of what we are doing really is leveraging the book. The book is the anchor to the campaign that we've just launched called Building a Parent Nation campaign. So let me walk you through sort of the big picture and the little picture. And then I especially want to talk to you about parent villages, which is how we will activate and mobilize parents and caregivers and allies across this nation to achieve this goal of a society that better supports parents. So first, let me just be very, very clear that Dana, in her book and in our call to action, we very much leverage the neuroscience as a framework. I think we are now in our country clear, very, very clear about the science of those early years and how rapidly a child's brain is continuing to form through those first 5 years. By the time kids are 5, as you know, 95% of their brain has reached full development. And so over the last decade or so, we, across this country, providers, home visitors, childcare directors, parent educators have all been working to ensure that parents and caregivers themselves have an understanding of the brain science so that we know how to interact with children in those, especially in the early years, although this really spans all the age groups for children. And so we've done a fair job. We still have more to go. There's still a lot of people who don't know about the brain science and the neuroscience. And the essential key message here is that aligning the neuroscience to the individual is critical and powerful, but it is insufficient. And that for all children to thrive and succeed, it's really society that also must be aligned to the brain science. And why does that matter? It matters because if we're asking parents to talk, read, sing, early language interactions with their children, yet they work 2 and 3 jobs, they don't get home until 10 o'clock at night, how do you do that? How do you spend quality time with your children in those early years if parents in this country still don't have paid parental leave? How do we make sure kids are in the best care in their early years when parents do have to go back to work, when there is little access to childcare? So creating the society that creates the conditions for children to succeed is essential and is really at the core of the book and of the message around Parent Nation. So just a few slides to amplify and to zero in on some of those additional key messages in the book. If we don't focus our efforts on those first few years, we will never get where we're trying to go. Also, Dana calls out in her book that we are the richest country in the world, yet we have lost sight of what is required to give all children a strong start on the road to being a productive adult. And we know that there is a huge gap between what we say parents should do and what we do to help them do it. Again, those conditions are not in place for parents to succeed when we're asking them to do more. And then finally, that parents cannot and should not be expected to go it alone when engaged in the important work of raising children. We've seen what happens when we put it all on parents' shoulders. We've seen that over the last 2.5 years, and it is simply unsustainable. So yes, this is a movement about trying to change the way that society thinks about not only the role that parents play, but what it takes for children to succeed and to thrive in this country. So next, I want to talk to you about how we're amplifying these messages. Some of you might have seen some of the videos that I'm going to share with you on social media. They were part of our launch on April 26th when the book came out, when we launched the campaign. And these are the kinds of messages that we are putting out through social media, through our engagement with partners, through interviews that Dana and I have been doing, through webinars, as a way to lift up this important message around that role that parents play and why we need a society that better supports them. So let me show you 3 quick videos so that you see these messages, and then we'll talk about how we are mobilizing, and would love to partner with all of you to mobilize parents and allies and caregivers around this movement. So let's take a listen to the first video. This one is really about why we need policies to allow parents time with their children.
Did you understand it though? No.
What our nation has, lots of devoted parents. What our nation needs, better ways to support them. Like paid leave for the early days that go too fast. The potential of children depends on support for their parents. It takes a nation, a parent nation.
Really? I thought the same thing. We think a lot alike, huh?
This video, I know that many of you have seen it because it was all over social media for a while. That's JD Pryor. He's the dad who's working with us in getting this message out. What struck us as we were looking for ways to amplify this message were how we were gravitating toward videos with moments like this, because they're so infrequent. We don't generally see this, and so we think it's adorable. And how cute is that? And the point is that it shouldn't be a novel moment. This should be what just is for all parents all the time, is this kind of time to be interacting with our children. All right, let me get to the next short video. I'll take a look at this one, which is around needing flexible work schedules for that very reason around time. Here we go.
Oh my God, they're adorable. So brave.
They are, aren't they?
What our nation has, lots of devoted parents. What our nation needs, better ways to support them. Like flexible work schedules for moments you can't redo. The potential of children depends on support for their parents. It takes a nation, a parent nation.
And just one more, and this one really speaks to the importance of supporting parents around housing and housing security.
Do you like your new room?
What our nation has, lots of devoted parents. What our nation needs, better ways to support them. Like affordable housing or the security kids need. The potential of children depends on support for their parents. It takes a nation, a parent nation.
So those videos, and we'll continue to have others with some of these messages, are part of our campaign, are part of really amplifying and lifting up at a national level, at a very high level, the messages around the supports parents need for their children to succeed. The videos are available, by the way, for any of you to share on your social media, to use in your presentations. Any of the resources that I'm going to be talking to you about are available to you for free. And our hope is that we really equip as many of our partners, as many of you working in the field with these kinds of tools and resources to help us build this movement together. So let's talk about the other tools and resources that we have available. And these are all on our website, parentnation.org. Almost everything, not the book yet, but almost everything is in English and in Spanish. We are getting requests for more languages. So we're building that out at the moment. But first, there's a book discussion guide. So I shared the book cover with you earlier. And I know Lisa has been talking about book circles and a book club, and others of you might as well. But it's a really great place to start with your staff, with your colleagues, with your network, with your coalitions, as a way to sort of deepen and lay the foundation for the movement that, again, we hope all of you are part of. The book discussion guide, since the book is only in English, the book discussion guide is also only in English. But what we did do is at the back of the book, there's the guide, and then there's also a call to action. So we modified the call to action a bit, the action guide, so that it would be also in English and in Spanish. And in that guide, we talk about all of the ways in which you can get involved to be part of this movement around building a parent nation. What you see here is the Spanish version. Next to that, at the very far right, you'll see some icons around parent villages. So that's where I'm going to spend the rest of my time, because this is where we actually can have the most impact, we believe, in building the movement that we're talking about. So we have developed tools and resources to convene parents through what we're calling parent villages. The resources are all part of a toolkit that I'll walk you through. And again, those are also in English and in Spanish, and are on the website, available to you at no cost. So let's talk about the concept of parent villages. And I know Joe's going to talk a lot about that when I hand the mic over to him. Let me set the stage for that as well, and then walk you through the resources and how you can host a parent village. So here's the idea. The idea is that in order to really fuel a movement, we need to build a grassroots effort, a community-based advocacy movement, starting with parents and caregivers. We know that they have the most moral authority on this idea of a society that better supports parents, because it's their children that are being impacted. So we wanted to create ways for parents to come together in community, in small groups, and deepen their understanding about what's happening in society. Many parents obviously feel it. They feel the weight of being alone in this important job of raising children. But we wanted to create a space where parents could form community with and among each other, a space where parents would give and receive supports, where we would help them see the importance of the role that they play. The key messages that we're trying to build out through the villages is to help parents recognize that they're not the ones that are failing. It's society that is failing to support them, so that they can do what every parent wants, which is to provide the best for their children, to set them up for success. We want to be able to elevate their expectations of society, and move from parents feeling like they have to go at this alone. It's all on them. But no, begin to really embrace the idea that society actually has an obligation to help raise the next generation, because it is about the future of this country, about our economy, about our democracy, about who we want to be as a nation. Society has an important role to play there. And then we wanted to make sure that the conversations that we would engage parents with begin to help them see themselves as change makers, and that by the end of this experience, they would be inspired to fight for change. So these are all of the ways in which we thought about what would it take for parents to get to this place where they would recognize that it's not them that are failing, but that society has an obligation, that they can be a change maker, and that they would be inspired to fight for change. How could we ensure that we were fostering collective identity fostering community, forging collective identity, and then inspiring them to fight for change. So that led us to develop a curriculum where these parents would be in that parent village community through a 4-session experience. So let me walk you through what that looks like. So there's a lot of tools and resources that I'm going to walk you through very quickly, and happy to invite you to information sessions that we're doing where we go much deeper with a lot more time. But what we did very early on is talk to a lot of parents to help inform the curriculum that would take them through this experience that I just covered. So all of what we've developed is parent informed and it was parent tested. It led us to develop the toolkit with the guides, a scripted curriculum, if you will, with a lot of high impact activities so that it was engaging and interactive. We have all the handouts that you will need, facilitation guidance and tips, and lots more to equip you to host a parent village, meaning bringing these 8 to 10 parents together, hopefully not once, but continuously. I shared earlier that everything that we have developed is in English and in Spanish. What I haven't shared is that we also created all of these tools so that you can host parent villages either in person or virtually. So we know that Zoom or whatever platform we have for virtual learning is here to stay. Even beyond COVID, we know that for many parents who might be in remote communities with the lack of transportation or other barriers and challenges, that participation is more possible for some parents in a virtual setting. So one of our toolkits really allows us to bring parents together virtually. Again, it's very interactive and engaging. It's also what we call adaptable and modular. And what does that mean? So adaptable is that you can take the curriculum that we have developed and adapt it to speak more directly and more intentionally to the population of the parents that you're working with. So for example, if you're working in a tribal community, you can adapt the ways in which we do some of the activities, say the welcome, for example. Maybe the welcome in your first session is not how we proposed it to be, but maybe instead it's prayer and chanting because that's important to that community. So again, adapting it to meet the needs of your community is very welcomed. It's also modular in that I said there were 4 sessions. Well, maybe you're already doing parent leadership and parent education and you have your own curriculum, but you really like what's in our session 2 and 3 because it complements or deepens the learning that you're trying to bring to your parents. So you can just take session 2 and 3 and fold it into what you're doing. All of the content is available via download at no cost. The only cost you will incur are your own printing costs of the materials. And then we also invite you and welcome you to co-brand, add your logo, make this your own. So what do these sessions look like? What does the curriculum look like? As I mentioned, there are 4 sessions. Each session is laid out to be a 90-minute experience for parents. Now, remember, I said it's adaptable. So if you wanted instead to make it a 1 hour, you can divide session 1 into 2 sessions. Or maybe 90 minutes isn't enough time. And by the way, we know in some communities when we tested this, that once parents start talking with each other, they want to continue. Most of the time they went to 2 hours. So you can adapt it to 2 hours. So let me walk you through the session. So as I said, they're currently 90 minutes and they're intended for small groups of parents, 8 to 10. In session 1, obviously, because it's the first session, we want parents to be able to come together, meet each other, create a trusting space, and build their own community with that group. One of the first activity that they'll participate in session 1 is what we call the Parent Nation Foundation Principles card activity. And this really sets the stage for the rest of the 4 sessions or the rest of the 3 sessions after session 1, because it anchors the group into a set of principles and values. I won't have time to go through all of them, but their values or principles that are like, for example, all parents love their children. All parents deserve choices. So they'll get grounded into a set of principles. There's a discussion, there are discussion questions. And in this session, parents begin to imagine a society that can better support them. In session 2, this is where parents begin to see that society is not working at all for them and that things are way out of balance. And this is how they begin to forge a collective identity with each other, meaning that they start to see that all parents are experiencing the same thing. They're not alone. Many of them feel like they're alone, but they're not alone. So they start to see that there's a collective identity of parents, and more importantly, that all parents love their children and all parents need support. So in session 2, there are 2 activities that we take parents through to deepen that learning. The first is called the building blocks activity, and the second is called the big shift. The big shift is an incredibly powerful activity. We've gotten a lot of amazing feedback where parents begin to visually, with this activity, there's a big poster, there's 2 big posters, and they're using Post-it notes to put on a scale, a balance scale, how their needs for their children get met. And we ask them to think about the first 5 years, although if you have parents that have older children, and many of them are participating, have older children, so it could be any parent with any age child. But we ask them in the big shift activity to think about the first 5 years and the top 3 needs that they had and how those needs got met. So maybe they, in their Post-it note, wrote childcare, housing, financial support, flexible work schedules, whatever those issues were, and they'll put on the scale whether that need got met. Individually, they had to figure it out. They had to rely on a neighbor for childcare, say, or they had to out of pocket pay for their health care, or they'll put the Post-it note on the other side of the scale, which is the institution side, meaning that they got that need met because there was a policy in place with their state, with the government. Maybe their child was in Head Start, so therefore they would put their child care Post-it note, if that's what they wrote, on the institution side. So they'll begin to see on this big poster of their real life reality where things are falling, where they have fallen. And then they do that again. And this time they do that same activity, and that there's another poster called My Ideal Society. And they put their Post-it note on the side of where in an ideal society that need would get met. And so it's a very visual and experiential kind of activity where they have this aha moment of really how out of balance they know, they feel it, they feel the stress, they feel the guilt that they're never doing enough for their children, but not because they don't want to, it's because things are so out of balance. So that takes us to session 3, because by the end of that session 2, parents begin to say, so what can we do about it? We need change, but what can we do? We're just parents. So in session 3, we explore this idea of being a change maker. And it's a 2-part activity where parents begin to match up their strengths, their gifts, their talents, their interests to some of the most common social change roles. And these come from the social change literature. The roles include a helper, the rebel, the advocate, the organizer. We added storyteller. And through this activity, they see where they're most connected and where they most align given their interests, and identify for themselves that they are a change maker, that they can contribute in big ways and small ways. And then they start to learn from each other. So then there's the change maker speed dating game. They learn from each other what other parents in their group are more inclined to want to do as a change maker. And they see that we need all different talents and strengths, and it takes all of us to build a parent nation. And finally, and I'm getting ready to close, I know, Lisa, I'm running out of time. Finally, in session 4, this is the last of the 4 sessions. So parents, by the end of this session, will have an idea of what they want to do to create change, and they are inspired. And we've seen this through the beta testing that we did of the curriculum and the feedback that we continue to get, that by the end of session 4, parents are really inspired to be part of this movement, which is what we wanted. So in this last session, parents engage in 3 different activities. There's a Parent Nation bingo game. There's the village action plan where they actually concretely start to identify their plan of action. And then there's the Parent Nation pledge that they take and really put out what they want to do to create the society, their ideal society that supports parents. There's all of the material looks, here's a display of all of the material that we've developed for the parent villages, and you as a host, when you bring parents together, we'll have all of these materials, including a certificate of participation, and the posters and the cards for the activities and so on. Finally, I'm just going to end with this, and these are all of the groups around the country. There were 5 different groups that tested the material with us, from Florida to California to Arizona. Parents as teachers, we did a big focus group at the conference last year. A group of neighbors and friends, you see at the top, we think they're at the beach, but they're in somebody's backyard, going through the parent village experience. Got a lot of really great feedback. And consistently, we have had just very positive response about how powerful the curriculum is. We're thrilled to hear that, but more importantly, we're hoping that you all will take advantage of all of the material that we provided and that we can support you in hosting a parent village. Lisa will put all of my information or provide you all of the information where you can reach me. And with that, Lisa, I'm going to turn it back to you and make sure that Joe has time to make his presentation.
Yolie, I have a few things, and there's a couple questions before we let you go. But what? This is my question. What brought you to this Parent Nation work? Me
as an individual.
You as an individual. You as at the top of your career ladder, and what made you say this is going to help our children and families?
I've spent my entire career, my 30-year career, with one mission in mind, and that's to make sure that all children succeed, especially low-income kids and kids of color who have the least chance to succeed. And I have been very clear from the very beginning, and every decade of another opportunity in the work that I do, I get even clearer that the most powerful way to make sure kids succeed is to support their parents. They are the most influential factor in every child. We know that. We especially know that because the first 5 years matter. And where are children in the first 5 years? They're at home with their parent, with their caregiver. Maybe it's a biological parent, maybe it's a foster parent, maybe it's a grandparent, but that person has the most influence. And every time I see a parent and a child interacting in the most intentional way, I feel relief. I just think thing in my body that feels like this child is going to be okay. So I have tried my entire career to create the revolution that we need to make sure that this nation pays attention to what parents need so that children succeed. So that's why. And so I had the opportunity to join Dana to do this work. Obviously, this is the pinnacle of my career, this work right now.
It's clear. There was a question here about, is there a cost to host a parent village?
So no, we wanted to remove as many barriers as there might be to hosting a village. So this is why, when people develop some curriculums, there's a pretty hefty charge. We spent a year with a lot of people really giving us a lot of good input. There's a lot of creativity in here. And that's our contribution to this field. We don't need to make money off of this. We want to build a movement for the cause. So there's no cost. in terms of the actual content. You can download it, you could print it yourself, you could take it to your local printer. We are about to finalize a relationship with FedEx, so you can online order all of the material. There is a cost for that hopefully your organization, we're trying to get United Ways and other local funders to support you in those printing costs. But other than that, yeah, it's really, you get the material and do with it what you want to bring parents together at no cost.
And I know we have a person on this call who lives in Kansas and is very interested in what is happening in Kansas. And I am not sure, but Yolie, I will make sure that everybody has your contact information so that she can get plugged in. Or maybe Kristen knows,
Yeah, absolutely.
plugged in across the border.
And if you go to parentnation.org and ask for the toolkit, you'll get an email and you'll get my information and a way to contact us. But you'll get 4 links because there are 4 toolkits. There's the English in person, English virtual, Spanish in person, and Spanish virtual. So you get all those links and you can then, use the materials that best work for you and your families.
Well, this is just absolutely fabulous, Yolie. We need, can everybody just take a deep breath on this call and think what it would be like to have these parent villages throughout the state of Missouri and how we could actually change our hands-off government to creating that safety nets for all families to thrive. It would be unbelievable. So I get to now introduce Joe Gallant, who is taking this work forward with Kids Win Missouri. And then afterwards, we'll discuss other ways to get involved also in the state of Missouri. And I'm just honored to introduce Joe Gallant, who's the outreach coordinator for Kids Win Missouri. I hope many of you are familiar with Kids Win Missouri. If not, I highly suggest that you go to their website and get involved. It is Missouri's statewide children's advocacy organization, and it's a coalition of organizations and individuals dedicated to improving the well-being of Missouri's children. Just a little background about Joe. Joe relocated to Kansas City from Boston in 2013 and has gained extensive experience working as a direct care provider for Missouri's youth and families. He began his work with the Division of Youth Services, serving as a youth specialist at a secure care facility. Upon leaving his role, Joe joined Rosebrook Center as a prevention specialist, working directly with multiple school districts in the Kansas City area, implementing a curriculum to help children develop healthy relationships, coping skills, and social support. Through his work with Rosebrooks, Joe became an active community partner, creating and maintaining strong relationships with other care providers, schools, and community leaders. And he was a key player in seeing that the Jackson County Children's Service Fund ballot initiative passed in 2016. I am honored, Joe, to have you here and for you to talk to us about what we're doing with Kids Win Missouri.
Thank you so much for that introduction, Lisa, and good morning, everybody. It's great to be here this morning, and gosh, it's great to follow after Yolie and that incredible presentation on the Parent Villages work that's going to be going on all across the country. So I want to talk a little bit about what we've got going on here in Missouri specifically and how that's going to align with the work that Yolie and everybody at the Parent Villages Initiative is doing. So what I'm going to do is share my screen and share about some exciting family advocacy opportunities that we have going on here in the state. So hopefully everybody can see my screen okay. And first and foremost, I just want to give a little bit of background about who Kids Win Missouri is, if you're not familiar with our organization. As Lisa said, we're a multifaceted advocacy group, and we've got our hands sort of in everything kids and families all across the state of Missouri. So to kind of give a better definition of that, we're a coalition of organizations and individuals dedicated to improving the well-being of Missouri children. So of course, our goal is to make Missouri a great place to raise a family, to raise your kids. And we're able to try to reach that goal by partnering with different organizations all across the state, different state departments, and working directly with the state legislature when we can. So what we do through collaboration and advocacy, we develop and advance evidence-based and equity-centered public policies and systems changes that support the health, education, safety, and development of children and families. So again, through that collaboration with different partners across the state, we're able to engage in effective advocacy for these services that really benefit kids and families, or are adjacent to services that benefit kids and families. So we really are able to do that through, like I said, really excellent partnerships all across the state. And we're very, very proud of the partners that we have all throughout the state, which some of you on this call, on this webinar, probably members of those organizations yourselves. So we're greatly appreciative of all the collaboration we're able to do when it comes to advocating for these services. And we do that because every child deserves to grow up happy, healthy, and ready to succeed in school and life. We truly believe that. We try to take, like I said, an equity lens to every single thing that we do, every single service that we advocate for, and make sure that we're advocating for the kids and families who absolutely need it the most. And we're very, very happy to be able to do that. And again, we're able to do that through really excellent partnerships and just engaging in effective advocacy within the state legislature. So what I want to talk to you all about today is our early care and education initiative, which we're rolling out currently. This has been a few years in development at Kids Win, and we're finally in a space where we feel like the political climate within the state, as well as some of the new state departments that have been created, like the Office of Childhood, and again, given the climate and the environment, we felt like it would be the perfect time to roll out this initiative. Our Governor Parsons, has made it clear that he would like early care and education to sort of be a legacy issue of his, and something that he'd really like to hone in on during his term here. So we're really glad to be able to, see him as a champion in this work that we're doing. And again, having the governor as a champion is definitely a good indication that it's time to roll this stuff out. So we're very, very excited to roll it out. And I'm going to give sort of a high level explanation about what this looks like, and then dive a little bit deeper into our family and parent specific work. But first and foremost, I wanted to just sort of give a broad overview of what this initiative looks like as a whole. So it's a multi-year initiative that, again, we've had in development for a few years now, and are finally just rolling it out, which, even though it's been in development, we are definitely still building the bridge and walking across it at the same time with some of this stuff. But we're very, very excited to be able to do that. We have, again, a lot of really great partners in the state that are helping us roll this out as effectively as possible. So one of the first components of the initiative is a PR campaign in which we're hoping to elevate policymakers throughout the state as what we're calling champions of children. So if those policymakers hit a few different criteria, such as, they've engaged with providers in their region this many times, or they've engaged with parents in their region this many times, or they've, elevated or elevated the language in a bill that helps kids and families, or anything like that. We want to recognize those policymakers as champions of children. So this is sort of that positive reinforcement on both sides of the aisle, that we can really attach to the name of these policymakers, and hopefully mobilize more of them to fall under that same category, and continue to push forward these policies that benefit our kids and families in the state. The next is our parent and family engagement, which is our family leadership circle, which I'm not going to talk about just yet, because I'm going to go a little bit deeper into that in just a minute here. But to give an idea of what that looks like, I will talk about our provider engagement, which is, it very much mirrors the family engagement in its structure, which I'm going to go a little bit deeper into here in a minute. But basically, our provider engagement work is where we're trying to get provider leaders from different regions throughout the state to elevate the voice of the provider community. So the childcare provider community within the state, we want to make sure that there's an entity where we've split folks up into regions throughout the state, have 2 to 3 folks representing each region who are, we're calling provider leaders, who are elevating the voice of the providers for that region specifically, and then doing so across the entire state. So really, really looking forward to rolling that out. Our business and community leader engagement is pretty similar to our PR campaign, in the hopes that we can build local ECE champions out of business leaders, and elevating just the economic impact that these services and the lack of these services can have on communities, and making sure that that is a big part of the conversation as we're moving forward as well. And then government affairs and campaign management. This is really coordinating the government affairs capacity of all of our partners throughout the state, and utilizing the advocacy capacity of all communities across the state. So, really focusing on ballot initiatives and stuff like that. So that is sort of the broad overview of the work in its entirety. But to dive a little bit deeper into the family leadership circle, which is our parent engagement piece of all of this. So we wanted one of our components of this initiative to be a parent engagement initiative, where we're able to elevate the parent voice across the state in regards to early care and education policies. We didn't just want to bring parents into the table or into the conversation to listen and, approve after the fact. We really wanted to elevate the parent voice as an expert voice in all of this, as opposed to just, again, having parents at the table to sort of check off a box. No, we wanted to make sure that parents are the leaders in this conversation and driving a lot of this conversation. So our goal in that is to engage a broad network of parents and caregivers throughout the state to give input and feedback in the development of our policy priorities. Also to activate families to advocate for policies that impact children and families at the state level, and provide a space for convening parents and caregivers at the regional level should regional issues arise that parent advocates can address. So the way that we structured this, we wanted to, again, have sort of a statewide entity of parent leaders that are able to advocate for early care and education policies at the state level, but then also do so by recognizing each region throughout the state might have different needs. They certainly have different policymakers that need to be engaged. So making sure that we had that representation at the regional level was really important for us as well. So how we did that in recruiting our parent leaders, which we have, I believe, 20 parent leaders across the state, all really incredible folks, very, very excited and passionate about this work. And how we went about recruiting them was we split the state up into 7 regions. And those regions you can see there on the slide. And in each of those regions, we identified a core partner within that region that is basically serving as sort of a touchstone within that region for our parent leaders, and providing some technical assistance as we're convening folks in that region. And again, really just being in tune with the landscape of that region specifically, and making sure that they're able to be as much of a support for the parent leaders from that area throughout this curriculum. So we split the state up into those 7 regions, and using our core partners in those regions, we were able to recruit parent leaders from each of those regions. And it's 2 to 3 parent leaders from each region that work alongside that core partner. And those parent leaders are going to receive an in-depth training on policy, advocacy, and leadership to effectively engage policymakers. And they'll receive that curriculum over the next 12 months. So we just launched this. Our virtual launch was last Wednesday on the 14th. It was very, very exciting, and we were so happy that it went well, and we got it underway. So for the next 12 months, these parent leaders will be receiving this curriculum training. And again, this is our inaugural year of this, so we're excited to keep it going after this. We're just so happy to be able to talk about it here and let folks know about what's going on right now, and then what's going on in the future as well. So some important details. Again, it's a 12-month 12-month curriculum. July 1st through July 30th is sort of the calendar year that we've come up with for this program. Most of the program consists of the virtual training sessions, which would be 10 virtual training sessions where parent leaders from across the state would be able to convene and receive this training. We also are having the parent leaders and their core partners host 4 quarterly meetings, which would be regional meetings to engage with policymakers from that region. That's where we also hope to align the work with the parent villages work that's happening, is within those quarterly meetings, and finding ways to align with that and host parent villages within each region. And then 2 in-person engagement sessions in Jefferson City, 1 veto session in September and the other Child Advocacy Day in March. And of course, we want to make sure that parents are compensated for their time and expertise on this. So we are giving our parent leaders a $2,000 stipend, which we're very happy to be able to provide, because we also recognize this is a voice that has been largely tapped into over the last few years, and we want to make sure that we're compensating them as much as we possibly can. And also, every parent in this program has at least 1 kiddo that's from birth to 5 age range. So we definitely recognize that flexibility as far as, participation and stuff like that is all stuff that we've taken into account with that. And again, making sure that we were able to provide that compensation was a really big priority of ours. So that's sort of my spiel on everything and how that's going. I wanted to come just under time for you, Lisa. And
It's phenomenal.
Yeah.
Phenomenal beginning.
Yeah, we're so excited to be launching this. Again, we just had our inaugural launch of this meeting last week, or of this convening, this cohort last week. So we're very, very excited to continue this work, and I'm definitely happy to answer any questions about how anybody, if they want to get involved in some of the regional work in those 4 quarterly meetings throughout the year. We're happy to do that, as well as get folks involved if this is something they'd be interested in participating in at a later time.
Sounds great, Joe.
Yeah.
We're at our time here, so we don't have a lot of extra time for questions and answers. I'm going to, everybody get Joe's email address there. And I wanted to just share our last screen so that everybody here knows how to reach out. Apologize here. You want to get involved, you want to learn more. Something that everybody should also know here in Missouri, Parents as Teachers, which is started here in Missouri. Their national center here is in St. Louis, and they have started parent villages based on the Parent Nation work. So contact me or contact Kristen or contact Joe here if you would like to get more involved. And you have any questions. I will be sharing the slide deck with everyone after this and the recording. And last but not least, I just want to give a big shout out. This whole week is a celebration for the grade level reading initiative through the campaign. And so there's lots of fun stuff going on. And tomorrow is Missouri's Day. Why is it Missouri's Day? Because Turn the Page STL is a finalist for the 2022 Grade Level Reading Pace Setter Award. And the winners are going to be announced tomorrow at 2. I don't know. I think we should win. But I definitely know Turn the Page KC needs to be winning the 2022 Grade Level Reading All-American City Award. It is your time. And that winners and celebration will be Thursday, July 21st at 6:30 Central Time. So email me, email Kristen, get us more information. I see one last question in the chat. Yay, it's a big shout out from Adrian about the great work of Kids Win Missouri. So thank you all. I apologize about the chat. I will